Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Business Of, a show about the people and businesses that make Tucson great. New episodes air every Sunday morning on Arizona Lotus Corp stations.
The Tucson Metro Chamber is the voice of business for our region, and we boldly advocate for a stronger business environment and a prosperous community.
We're your host, Melissa Rociano, Communications and Marketing Manager of the Tucson Metro Chamber.
And I'm Zach Yentzer, Vice President of Business Advocacy for the Tucson Metro Chamber.
And I'm your BFF, your best Frank forever. I'm the producer behind this whole thing, dealing with these two every single week, having the time of my life, because I'm actually a big fan of the business of, but they do pay me to be here. So we've got a very special thing going on this week where, considering that Lifestyle Tucson is my show that I host where I talk to 501c3s and fun people in town, and then it airs right before the business of, it's the holidays, you guys are here, let's have a big action-packed, super fun holiday crossover edition of Lifestyle Tucson and the business of. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it!
All right, hit my music. Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Lifestyle Tucson, the program where I speak to our neighbors, the people behind the scenes of our amazing organizations, small businesses, and nonprofits. Our friends are informing you how they serve our community, and they are here to give you updates on future projects. So let's make some new friends today. The United States Chamber of Commerce's mission is to fight for the interests of business and free enterprise before Congress, the White House, regulatory agencies, courts, the court of public opinion, and governments around the world. Sounds great in practice, but what do a bunch of people headquartered across from Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. know about Grant and Alvernon? Much like my produce, I prefer my regulatory agencies local, and the Tucson Metro Chamber is our membership-based business advocacy and community development organization that represents 1,500 businesses employing more than 160,000 employees in Tucson and Pima County. Founded in 1896, the Tucson Metro Chamber is committed to being the connector of leaders and influencers, a catalyst for business growth, and a champion for a stronger community. They do this through advocacy, events, and even a radio show. The Business Of, this radio show, a podcast even, that showcases members of the Tucson Metro Chamber. A different topic is discussed each week from a business perspective. Let's not just get down to business, let's get down to the business of, because today I'm fortunate enough to speak with the hosts of the business of, Melissa Rociano, Communications and Marketing Director of the Tucson Metro Chamber, as well as arch frenemy Zach Yentzer, Vice President of Business Advocacy of the Tucson Metro Chamber. Both of you, welcome to Lifestyle Tucson.
It's good to be here.
Thanks, Frank.
So what'd you think of that?
It was good. However, I'm just a manager, not a director. They don't pay me those big bucks.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, yeah. Either way, we won't tell anybody. I won't edit it out. I'm in charge around here. That's right. But I'm super excited to talk to you guys because, again, I help produce your show every single week. It's a great show talking to all these great businesses. But I really only started to understand what the Tucson Metro Chamber actually is recently doing my research when I thought of the idea to have us all get together and have a big super action-packed show today. So why don't we talk a little bit about the 101 of the Tucson Metro Chamber, and then I want to focus on the business of and what it's been like to be great radio show hosts and podcast hosts here in Tucson, talking to a bunch of fun business leaders in town. So give me a little bit of history about the Tucson Metro Chamber.
For sure. Well, I'll kick it off.
Sure.
And the Tucson Metro Chamber has been around since 1896. It was actually started as a grocers association. And we're still trying to figure out why the grocers specifically thought they needed an association. But in 1896, they formed an association and obviously grew into a membership association that cuts across industries and sectors and represents businesses of all sizes. And our mission is to create an environment where your business thrives and our community prospers. And we kind of like to think about what we do as falling into two buckets. Now, one is a champion bucket and one is a change maker bucket. And the way I see it is on the champion side, we get to showcase and talk about the amazing businesses and opportunities and what is going well in this community and the power of business to do good in Tucson. And so like a lot of chambers, we do events and gatherings. And so if you are a business that is looking to meet other businesses, connect to services, understand the community better, grow your business, we're a great place to come and see all that Tucson has to offer and to meet other great businesses. On the Changemaker side, one of the things that is unique about the Tucson Metro Chamber is we are an advocacy chamber. We are active on staying on top of the policies and regulatory practices and ways that impact businesses on the policy side. And we work on our businesses' behalf to sit down with our policymakers and our influencers to help guide and shape an environment where business can thrive and our community prospers. And that's our Changemaker side.
I like that. I love that you use the word champion a lot because, again, that's what a lot of us need. We need champions to fight for us in the community and in any relationship, really. It's always good to have a champion there for you, fighting the battle that we don't even know that, some of the fights that we need to be fighting. Because there's a lot of stuff happening in town and in our community, but you guys really have your finger on the pulse of a lot of these great things, as well as great programs that you yourselves do throw and get involved with to help all our business leaders and business owners of all sizes. That's what I really realized when I was looking at the Tucson Metro Chamber and how it does work, because I was wondering about membership. Like, what is a Metro Chamber? How do you become a member? And I'm reading all this stuff. Oh, there's tiers of membership. There's different rankings for the size of your business, whether you're a gigantic corporation here in town or just a small business owner. And it's a pretty good level of the way you get involved. Again, you got to pay for that membership, but you have certain tiers and they come with all these great member benefits. So why don't we talk a little bit about the member benefits and what it is to be a business owner and a part of the Tucson Metro Chamber?
Sure. Frank, I'm actually really glad that you brought that up because first, I would like to mention that, like Zach said, we've been around for a very long time, over a century in Tucson. But I would honestly say that right now we're a very different chamber as of late. Zach and I are relatively new to our roles, and the chamber is restructuring and we're becoming more modern. We like to say we're not your grandparents' chamber of commerce. Mm-hmm. And it really, part of that restructure is to highlight the amazing champion work that not just our staff, but our members do, because we've always done it, but we kept getting some feedback over time, like, what does the chamber do? Like, what are you doing? And, we would kind of sit there scratching our heads like, what do you mean? We're like busting our butts on a regular basis, having these meetings and, talking policy and being advocates. And, well, it makes sense. We're not really showcasing that. So that's kind of been part of this transition that we've been doing over the past 4 or 5 months is really showcasing that. What are the policies that we're fighting for? Why does it actually matter? And, for people that have listened to our show, The Business of, they've been used to a sort of format of it, talking to different businesses, but that sort of changed over time too with me and Zach taking over, and it kind of showcases the things that we're doing, but it breaks it down for people to understand, like, this is why it matters. This is why we're advocating for, like, the Tucson bond, and this is why it's relevant to business. So that I just wanted to mention that, but, why people should join the chamber and what exactly is it that we do. Like Zach mentioned, part of the benefits is we do host these events, whether they're small, they happen on a regular monthly basis, or they're large-scale events. We recently had our holiday reception at Desert Diamond Casinos, and we had a lot of legislators there and dignitaries, and we provide that space to connect to those people who can actually make those big decisions in our city. And on top of that, I know we can provide the space to connect with other business owners, but we also provide incentives, to provide services at a discounted cost that you wouldn't be able to get outside of the chamber. And on top of that, you're going to have opportunities to promote your business on a wider scale. We host a lot of ribbon cutting events. Those are so fun.
I was going to say, don't jump ahead. I was going to make fun of Zach for the ribbon cutting, all right? I'm very jealous. Do you have any gold scissors yet that you just keep at home on a shelf?
Hey, they're silver, okay.
We keep a pair of those at the chamber on a shelf. Those are big scissors. I didn't realize before. Those are not little scissors.
It's a big job of ribbon cutting. There's a lot of events. I thought that there was only a few, like, kind of keystone events that you have, like where you have the issues with the twist and the Copper Cactus Awards, but then I looked at your events calendar. Right now, there's over 80 events on your calendar, including ribbon cuttings, speed networking, which I love, the Chamber Exchange, and other fun things that are going on around here. Because the thing that you guys are, I always say this on Lifestyle Tucson, is that Tucson is the baby bear's porridge. It's just right. It's the right size. That's why we're all able to network real well. And that old adage of it's not what you know, it's who you know is still how the world works, and might even be how the world works even more. And getting involved with an organization like yours is how you get involved and you find out the who to know. I discovered this when I really entered more of the small business world, with getting involved with Startup Tucson, figuring out about there's a startup community. Oh, there's these other weird business communities, small business communities. Tucson Young Professionals, I believe that was a part of your history there, Zach, right?
That's right.
Yeah, didn't you? Did you win an award as part of Tucson Young Professionals? Were you one of the 30 under 30?
I was a 40 under 40.
Oh, 40 under 40.
But it was a great 5 years serving as executive director of that organization.
I mean,
right before this one.
Yep, phenomenal work that you've always been involved in the town, in the city, doing some of that stuff. You even have a civics bee, which I love civics. All right, that's exciting to get involved.
I'm really excited about that.
Right?
That's
See?
cool.
Right? And that's the thing, is that I love community. That's my big thing. I love Tucson a lot. All right, Zach's got kids. I don't have kids yet. I always say Tucson's my baby. That's why I think I care so much, because that's where all my feelings go. They go to taking care of the kids in the town and the community and the families and all these great people that I meet at all these fun public events. And that's what you guys are. You're a real connector. So I really do. I just want to go back and talk about what it is to join the chamber. And then I want to get right to talking about the business of and why that's such a great thing, because it's being on the radio. It's my favorite thing to do. So you've got different tiers for how this all works. And let's start with a connector. It's just $495 annually. And that's really for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits with only one location looking for networking opportunities and proven ways to grow their company. That appeals to a guy like me. That appeals to a lot of people in this city. And then the next tier will be a promoter. And it's like if you have a bigger business. So as you get higher, obviously it costs more, but that's when you start helping out bigger companies, corporations, multiple location companies here, things like that. So I love the connector one, but now let's go on to promoter. So that's when you get $1,500 annually. That's what that costs. It's for corporations and businesses that are growing and want to get involved and make a positive impact in the community. And I think that's a key point. Businesses that want to do that, and I meet them, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they sometimes ask me, like, how do I get involved? I have a toy store owner. And he's like, I just want to give toys to kids at the holidays. Like, what do? I don't know how to have my own toy drive. How can I get involved with this and that? And it's like, get involved with that Tucson Metro Chamber, and I bet they'll be able to work that out with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That, because we've had a lot of conversations like that before, even just anecdotally. Like, I've had friends who want to start businesses, and they're like, I just want to do this. This is what I'm passionate about, but I don't know anything about starting a business, right? Like, I don't, finances, payroll, like, what's that? So being able to provide that space for members to then talk to, a CEO of a, payroll company and ask them, like, hey, like, can you help me with this? Help me figure this out. And those benefits that you're reading off, they're we're entering into a new year, so they're going to be better than ever. We're going to have some added value and benefits to that to really give members what they're looking for. So, yeah, it's exciting stuff.
No, it is exciting. And then there's more levels there, but that's for our higher, bigger companies, champion level, as well as Catalyst, and then some Keystone investors. So big things if you want to be a part of the Tucson Metro Chamber at any level. And that's really exciting. We talked about some of these great events that you do. You talk about advocacy. What does that mean to people when you say the word advocacy? It means things like CART, the Coalition Against Retail Theft, which you just talked about a couple of weeks ago, as well as TRAC, the Tucson Restaurant Advisory Council, for the big gastronomy city that we are, famous for our food. Absolutely, we should have that. So you talk a lot about that stuff. But you know what you talk about a lot the most? Workforce development. What's that? Tell me about workforce development, why it's important. You got various programs from Blueprint, Emerging Leaders, Thrive in Tucson, and Pipeline AZ. All of this is available at TucsonChamber.org. You can find all that there. But tell me a little bit about workforce advocacy, and then I want to talk about the business of.
Sure. Frank, over time, we heard from our member businesses, I have all this work that needs to be done, but I can't find the workforce to do it. And we heard that across industries. And then we would sit down with economic development partners who would say, I have companies who either want to grow here in Tucson or relocate here, and they can't find the workforce for their sector or industry. And so we found that workforce drives a lot of market decisions. And for us, we want to tackle that issue from two angles. One angle is we want to understand in our key kind of core industries, especially, what workforce do we need in 5 or 10 years? And how do we work with education partners and policymakers to close that gap? And that can be very, very meta. But Frank, it can also be as simple as how can we convene people to get the right internships and apprenticeships going? So we're developing the workforce that is needed, certainly on the trades side and some of those hard skill positions. But then we're also looking at it from the employee angle. How can we help businesses and policymakers understand what gets in the way of workers being able to access the workforce? And how do we reduce some of those barriers? So it's very high level, but also very tactical. And you mentioned our blueprint. People can go on our website and look at our 5-part strategy that we worked with our members on around how we can increase the available workforce in the ways that our businesses need them.
I stumbled across that. I was very impressed. It's like
It's a lot of work.
Yes, it's a lot of
Couple
work.
years, in fact.
I believe it. A lot of bullet points, but it is. It's like, here's a whole strategic plan. It's not hidden. It's not. It's there. Follow it. A lot of stuff. A lot of success. It's just a template to follow. It really is. There's not like, what's the secret? The secret is do the work.
Yeah.
That's the secret. The writer must write. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And that's what holds a lot of people back is just the thinking, the planning, the plotting. You got to do the work, you know, and having a support system as well as a template and bullet points, 2 years of research you've done, laying it out there, and it's all free right there on the site. I mean, that's a huge thing that really just does help get people over the hump and onto the next step of, be it the creative process, the starting a small business process, whatever process it is, to be a part of the community and be a business owner in town, and a successful business owner.
Absolutely.
Very important.
And our members do the work. And that's one of the things that I love about the chamber, you know, like the committees and coalitions that you just mentioned, you know, track and cart. That isn't just us. Those are made up of members. You know, members join those groups and they're the ones speaking on the issues. You know, we never had the intention of coming in and saying we know best. We're not business owners. You know, I've had, you know, my own personal experience from family, but like, I don't know the struggles on a daily basis. So that's why those groups are so important. They're the ones that are experiencing this and telling us, like, this is the issue that I'm having. My employees don't feel safe walking home. So, you know, now we have, we have these coalitions of members to discuss solutions, and then we take that information and then we run with it. And that's where the advocacy part comes in.
Yeah, it's always good. It's good to be part of a team, and many hands make light work. You got to get that knowledge from people that have been there before so that you don't feel like you're walking into a dark room when you're trying to make a decision. I always use that analogy. Don't be afraid to walk into a dark room because you don't know if that light switch is going to be right there. So go for it. Might be across the room, but a little guidance will get you there. So let's now talk about broadcasting, the radio. It's a good time. And I believe this Zach Yentzer, why he's got an old, he's an old, what's the expression? An old
hand?
Yeah, that's the one. You're an old hand at radio, right? How long have you been involved in radio? You used to do this on, what was the station, and how long did you do it?
I did. I was on 1030 The Voice, KVOY, an AM talk business news radio station. I had a show on that for almost 5 years.
5 days a week too, right?
It was 5 days a week.
A lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. And now I get to be here.
Yeah.
And be a part of the Chamber's radio broadcast. Airs on Sunday mornings and then as a podcast. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been really good. And what about you, Melissa? How much experience did you have with any sort of broadcasting or hosting before you got thrown into this?
Yeah, right? That's a great word, throw. I actually never hosted before. I mean, I've been on the radio and, you know, from different positions that I've had in the community, and I've been interviewed, but never actually hosted. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little hesitant at first because, to be honest, I always hated the sound of my own voice. But it's been really fun. I really enjoyed it. And it's fun having those conversations, not just on the air, but even off the air. And some of those, amazing ideas that our team comes up with, sometimes they just kind of come out of these conversations that we have. And prior to hosting the show, I always had a passion for kind of rambling and going on a soapbox about some of these public policy issues. And now someone gave me a microphone and is paying me to do it.
Yeah.
So
It's a heck of a thing to get paid to do it.
I
once in a while, right?
I know. Very lucky.
Heck yeah.
It's been fun. And at first it was just going to be me, and then kind of organically Zach sort of joined in, and now we have this co-host vibe going on, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it.
As the producer who does get to literally not just listen but watch every single episode now, it's got a lot of vibrance, a lot of energy, and a lot of fun to it. I think even we have a lot of fun just brainstorming ideas for producing it. But also, let's not kill the lead here. What is the business of really about? It's every single Sunday morning after Lifestyle Tucson at 7:30 on all these Arizona Lotus stations, and there is a podcast, easy to find. So tell me what the business of is about and what the goals are for it going forward, because I know you're trying to make a few changes to it, and that's exciting for 2024.
Absolutely. So for people that have listened to the business of, for years now, it had a model of sort of strictly just promoting our members, which we still do. However, now it's sort of changing a little bit in the sense of we are really focusing on the advocacy work that we're doing, the initiatives, the policy that we've been backing, and how that kind of relates to all these businesses that do make up the chamber. And then on those episodes, we either have a member come in that's related to the topic, or, even a past episode, we had another staff member, our director of workforce advocacy, come on and talk about his experience at a conference. So it's not just so black and white of, here's this business and this is what they do, but here's this business, here's how our work impacts them, this is why you should care. Over time, it's kind of organically grown into this thing where we've sort of helped connect the dots on certain topics for the audience, because we understand, public policy isn't everyone's thing. Obviously it affects everyone, but not everyone understands, how much it really does impact everyone. We are all connected. So that was kind of something we really wanted for the show, to connect the dots for folks and really help them understand this is why you should care. This is why it impacts you. You might think it doesn't, but it does, and so that's kind of what it's been growing into now. With the new year, we're going to be releasing some different tiers and opportunities for people to sponsor the show, and we're going to kind of open it up to a bigger audience, to invite more guests, and hopefully some community leaders can come onto the show. So there's a lot to still share. We won't share it all now because hasn't been fully approved yet, but
ideation is still happening. That's right. We're still forming this thing.
It's still forming, but it's growing, and it's been really fun so far. And it's great to host the show with Zach. I kind of make him wing things at the last minute. I'm sure he loves that. I like to make him sweat a little bit. So it's been fun.
Yeah, so do I. So let me ask you this much then, Mr. Radio Fancy Man, 5 years, huh? What's the secret about radio hosting that we may not know?
The secret about it's mentally exhausting.
There you go. That's a good answer.
That's a secret. You start to get a voice for it that kind of comes in.
I'm obviously just looking for free advice here, Zach. All right, just come on, cough it up. All right, what do you got?
Can we restart that?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, maybe. I'm going to leave that part in though.
Leave it as a blooper.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the secrets to radio is something that I think you do really well, Frank, and that is it really is an organic spot for conversation. And I think with radio, unlike TV, where it's very scripted and very quick, radio, if you can get it to a place where it's organic and relational, you're having a natural conversation, that's a lot of fun. It's also very tiring, and you start to get a voice for it over time too. Something happens where you start to access those lower registers, and you have a voice sometimes that not everyone gets to hear at the cocktail party, So.
Yeah, I actually do all the editing, and I'm like, man, I really got to lower my register a bit. Because sometimes at the Lifestyle Tucson, I'm like, oh, stop it. It's a little too nasally. I don't know. Any thoughts Nasally.
You want to ask me, the
No,
one
not at
one
all.
who hates her voice
How
on the
dare you.
radio?
No, not at all.
Oh man, I still have yet to master the voice. But Zach's got it down. I remember the first time I heard the subtle shift and change. I was like, what just happened?
So I asked this of everybody, and it's just the final question because, we're that quick. You're having a good time. That's how fast it goes. If you had one wish for the business of, what is that wish?
More subscribers. Subscribe to our podcast.
Well, but that's a fine reason because why?
Well, honestly, and we've kind of mentioned it before, a lot of the work we do is based off the work our community members do. And we want that feedback. We want to know the struggles and challenges and even the positive things that they've encountered being a business owner here in Tucson. We want that. So, aside from the numbers, it would be great to just have more folks on the show to share their stories. Like that is what Zach and I really joined the chamber for, the storytelling part of it. And we can't tell those stories without other people. Dang, that was heartfelt, huh?
Yeah.
I think mine is similar. On the one side, we would love for our great member businesses who have great stories to tell and great expertises to be able to show that and have more people know about what they do. And then also would love to have the show be a place where we can rally more members to the cause. And the more people that we have activated and working alongside of us on some of the issues that we're working on, the more powerful voice there is. So we want to champion great business. We also want to add more people to the team, our members who are helping us to advocate for the issues that are important to the business community.
I love it. Hey, it's a wish, again, that we can grant for sure, because remember, word of mouth is the best way for anyone to be successful, and hitting that share button doesn't cost a dime. So tell someone about the business of, because there's a lot going on here in town that you might not be aware of. And similar to Lifestyle Tucson, I like to say, I did all the homework for you. It's a little bit like NPR, but it's like with the sleeves ripped off. Business of is actually a little bit more like NPR, but it is. So they're really professional and they do a great job, obviously. And I really enjoy producing your show. I've learned more by being a producer on your show than really a lot of things that there are around town when it comes to, civics and being involved in your community and some of the stuff happening in town, especially local
thanks,
events.
Frank.
Well, no, it's true. Because again, you hear how much I care about Tucson. So when you do find and see the change that's happened since you both took it over, the direction you're taking the show, it is like, oh, now we've got a resource. Now we've got something. And we've got people that really care because you both really care, and again, like it's fun to be a part of it even when I'm behind the scenes because I'm learning a lot and a lot of people could stand to learn a lot about Tucson. So, and they could stand to learn a lot about the Tucson Metro Chamber because, I have a small business. I myself am thinking that I'm going to join the Tucson Metro Chamber because it seems like it's kind of the pool party I want to be a part of.
Heck yeah.
So, heck yeah. Let me just ask you this. Will you take a check?
What's that?
Not from you.
Well, then, forget this. Today, we almost made friends with Zach Yentzer, Vice President of Business Advocacy. And we did make friends with, what was your name again, though?
Here we are.
Yeah, Melissa Rociano. Communications and Marketing Manager, not a director? Okay.
No.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. You got a promotion for me as far as I'm
Thanks.
concerned.
That's all that matters.
I'm afraid, Frank, that our listeners won't know about our best frenemy forever relationship.
We might have to explain that when I'm your guest on The Business Of, which is coming up next because that's what's happening here on this very special crossover extravaganza of The Business Of and Lifestyle Tucson, because what a good time it has been. Because today, again, we did make friends with Zach and Melissa, hosts of The Business Of, a show about the people and businesses that make Tucson great. Every Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m., right after Lifestyle Tucson. Be on Tucson's #1 Sunday morning radio show and reach 17,000 listeners. Thanks for joining me today, you two.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
This was Lifestyle Tucson. Oh, this just in. Lifestyle Tucson has 17,001 listeners. Thanks, Mom. Bing bong bing, time for a recap. A pretty great time talking to Zach and Melissa, dare I say it, of the Tucson Metro Chamber talking about the business of. I really do learn a lot getting to produce the show. And really, you get to learn a little bit more about how I do it and what I do when you listen to their episode where I get to be a guest coming up next. So that's very exciting. I love that we did a big holiday crossover edition. If you yourself are a small business or really a big business of any size here in Tucson, you should go check out the Tucson Metro Chamber at TucsonChamber.org. That you can get all the information, maybe sign up. And of course, make sure that you subscribe to The Business Of on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are just doing business. And you can also follow them on Instagram at Tucson_Metro_Chamber and go get things done right there online and stay involved and get involved in the community by getting involved with the Tucson Metro Chamber. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it, regardless of whether they take a check or not. Yentzer, bah. Anyway, I want to thank our new friends at The Business Of for joining me today. You've been listening to Lifestyle Tucson. If you're a nonprofit that would like to be on the show, email lifestyletucson@gmail.com. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday Mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible, or wherever fine podcasts are taking care of business. Follow on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Lifestyle Tucson because I'm your BFF, Frank Powers. Toot toot Tucson. I love you the most. And now the celebratory crossover calamity continues as I get to be the guest on The Business Of, which starts right now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Business Of, a show about the people and businesses that make Tucson great. New episodes air every Sunday morning on Arizona Lotus Corp stations.
The Tucson Metro Chamber is the voice of business for our region, and we boldly advocate for a stronger business environment and a prosperous community.
We're your host, Melissa Rociano, Communications and Marketing Manager of the Tucson Metro Chamber.
And I'm Zach Yentzer, Vice President of Business Advocacy for the Tucson Metro Chamber.
And today we are very excited to have a very special guest on the show, Frank Powers. Now, some of you might even recognize Frank. He's kind of done a little pop in here and there because Frank is actually our producer here at Arizona Lotus Corp Station.
Yeah, long time no see, guys.
Yeah.
Or long time no here.
But aside from being our amazing producer and fixing all the flubs that we have on a regular basis, he also is the host of his own show, Lifestyle Tucson. Welcome, Frank.
It's a pleasure. I'm very excited because I'm a big fan of your show. I do get to produce it, as I was just talking about a little bit ago. And it's awesome that I get to watch and meet all of your guests. It's kind of like I get to double dip because my show, Lifestyle Tucson, it's a public affairs show. I'm the director of public affairs at Arizona Lotus Corporation, which is great because I get to meet and interview exclusively like 501c3s and all these amazing people and leaders in the town. And that's been huge. But then because I get to kind of be a fly on the wall for your show, for The Business Of, I get to meet those people too, which is excellent and been super beneficial, even just for my small business and just telling them what I do, and super beneficial just for getting them to be like, by the way, would you like to come on my show in a few months? Yes. So it's another outlet and avenue for them to come on and promote what they're doing, because you do interview a lot of great people that are helping the community. So giving them another outlet by meeting me is another option. And I don't meet those people without producing your show. So I appreciate it.
It's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. Except for hanging out with this guy over here. Geez, Zach.
Yeah, Frank, we gotta explain this to people who may not know the inside joke of our frenemyship.
That's right.
But you and I have gotten to be on a number of things together over the years. One of which was, what's the word, Frank? It was a live COVID.
It was a telethon, essentially.
It was a telethon.
Yeah.
That's the word.
So we did a 9-week telethon.
We did 9 weeks.
Wow.
Very proud of that. All right. It was called THTTV, which is the worst name. Okay. Because it stood for Tucson Helping Tucson. Again, MTV stands for music television. Very easy.
It's okay. We were trying to be cool.
Yeah. It does still exist. They're on Facebook, and all of our episodes exist. They were these.
Oh, wow.
Yes, you can go find them on Facebook.
I think I'm okay with you saying that.
You should, because you did a great job, dare I say it.
I'm going to look it up now.
Where that's what it was.
It was hilarious.
I got to be the host of this telethon, which was a dream come true. we were making fun of it the other day that like this is the type of guy that I am, where I'm kind of a fun, wacky maniac in town.
No.
I know,
No.
right? But then but then I really care about kids in the community and all this sort of stuff. And you know who that is? That's Jerry Lewis. That's Jerry's kids. That's a guy who's known for being the flavin' wacky maniac. But then he's like, but now all of us need to settle down and help the sick, dying children. And that's what I care about. And that's a lot of what happens here in the community is getting to play these types of roles where I'm kind of the top of brand of wacky. I hear that a lot. People are like, so we needed a wacky person. Then someone leaned over to me and goes, Frank Powers. Yes, top of brand of wacky. But then you got to balance wacky out on your fun telethon with some really important news stuff. So that's when Zach would come in and he would kind of do an important, like serious, like interview with someone during the fun telethon that featured musical guests, local artists. We paid the local artists, paid the musical guests during COVID. That was the point. Paid gig workers, promoted all these things that were helping everybody out on the front lines. This is the first 9 weeks of COVID.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
This is happening like, things get shut down in March, April, and we're off and running, which I think was amazing.
Wow.
Again, at the same time, realize that what we're doing for the town, that was great. Parks and Rec reunited too. NBC did it too. Like every major organization was kind of doing something similar. So it's still hard to get the attention, but we did help a lot. And that program, I'm not sure if you're really aware, us doing that telethon, me, you, and everybody involved, raised $64,000.
Oh, wow. I didn't
for
know
people
that.
in the community, for artists.
Whoa.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
That's incredible.
Yes,
Way
that
to
was huge.
go.
All right, and then I believe that we got it sorted out with you guys and CIC. It's how I met the Community Investment Corporation, an organization I'm still involved with today.
That's so cool.
And we connected a lot of dots. I met a lot of great folks that really have the same interests, and that's Tucson, right?
Yep.
So it was really fun that we made our friendship where you
Right.
come on and I'm just
That was the
irate
shtick.
that
Yes.
you're here to take it away from me.
That's right.
But then, of course, because I'm this type of guy, I do that to him whenever I see him
That's
in town.
right.
He's running for mayor. I'm like, oh, they'll let anyone run for mayor.
I can attest to that.
Right?
He
He's-
definitely does.
Everywhere I would see him, I'd bother Zach. And it's so funny because it's kind of my favorite type of friendship.
Yes.
Where you dig at one another. Because I'm a New Yorker.
Yes.
And that's what it used to be. George Carlin talks about it. You sit on the stoop. It's called a chop fight. You're just making fun of each other. That's where your mama jokes come from.
Yeah.
You're trying to kind of outdo each other with how funny it is and making fun of each other. And that's what makes you friends.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun friendship.
been fun.
Don't tell anyone. Let's give Zach a little handshake.
There we go. there
Oh,
we go.
guys.
No one saw it happen on the radio.
We actually do like each other.
Okay.
But I had to explain it for
I know,
people
'cause it's-
who may not know that we actually think the world of each other, but
Right.
we insult each other whenever we see each other.
Right.
So.
And it was fun. And the final one, which was fun, the final THT TV was I say something to him and I'm like, all right, but Zach, what you have to do at the end of it, you have to like come like you're going to attack me. Right. And he does. He goes deadpan. He's like, I will end you, Powers. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And also every week I would make the intro longer for his segment. So I would get more annoyed
That
that he's
is
taking the time.
hilarious.
And then as you get to the last intro, it's long, but then it gets like warped, like he's the devil. Like it's just so
Oh, that's
over the
fun.
top.
It's wacky.
It's wacky.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like that's what we're trying to be. Because being entertaining is the way to get the message out sometimes. Again, John Oliver's doing it. Like I realize that Lifestyle Tucson is a public affairs show because I'm director of public affairs. That's what he's doing. He's kind of the way the Daily Show is a political satire. John Oliver's like public affairs satire. He's talking about these interesting topics that like you don't really talk, and politics are a part of it. It's a part of our public affairs, but it really is some of this minutia that goes on that we don't realize that like from some of these things in the community. One of my favorite guests to have on Lifestyle Tucson is like the Department of Transportation. Like, I don't know why. I love having city workers on. I think some of the most important people in our community are crossing guards. It's a volunteer position, and we need those people to help our kids across. They kind of can be fun, and they're invisible now.
Yeah.
But all those people are out there doing. That's why usually they're old. They're volunteering, and they're out there helping. And your kid wouldn't get home safe if that person in our town didn't show up on a street corner in the rain, sleet, or shine to help the kids across the street for an hour a day. And I like to think of those people. I like to believe in the mailman is a part of your family a little bit, that you know him and you know her and you care. They get a Christmas card. I believe in community a lot. I believe in Sesame Street, Mr. Hooper. But you know the people in your town and you're not afraid of your neighbors. And that's happened a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I want to bridge the gap between neighbors and don't be afraid to say hello to people. And that's something that when I moved to Tucson almost 20 years ago, That's what I noticed.
Yeah.
Is I'm from New York again. Obviously, there's a difference. People here are friendly. They're so friendly. You can meet strangers. You can talk to people. And that thing that I always read in Cosmopolitan that says a sense of humor is the most important thing that a woman cares about. It's true. A sense of humor actually matters here. Like you can achieve more out here in a little bit of a smaller pond as opposed to New York. You know, I opened a business here. I have a small business now, and none of that would be achievable in New York on Long Island.
Yeah.
And out here, there was a term when I moved back here called $30,000 millionaires. That used to exist before the $16 cheeseburger made it to Tucson. It used to be that you could be here, and for $30,000, I used to work 3 days a week, and I would be able to get by because Tucson used to be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Things have caught up, but there's still a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot because again, it's about who you know.
Yeah. It's
And
a
in
sense
this
of
town,
community.
Yes, it's easy to get to know each other.
Yeah.
It really
Tucson
is.
loves Tucson.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Frank, you obviously wear a ton of different hats. And honestly, I'm interested in knowing this because I don't know. Maybe Zach knows. But can you share just a little bit about your background? I mean, obviously, you're very passionate about storytelling and media. But, you know, prior to Lifestyle Tucson, what was that like? What'd you do?
So I'm a cartoonist, right? And comic books was like what I was all about, and I'm still all about, but it's a broader thing now when it comes to art because I've become obsessed with performing arts. Technically, this is that in a way.
Yeah.
Right? And I used to be the shyest kid in school, if you can believe it. And
No.
Yes, I did. I was the nerd. I was the quiet kid. I almost didn't. I remember when I kind of shut down in second grade, I threw out my joke books.
Aw.
And
oh my gosh, that's like the most depressing
yes,
image in my head.
I remember it vividly because I wanted my parents to stop me.
Oh.
But they didn't because my dad's kind of a regular, very accountant businessy, and he did kind of want me to like, when are you going to stop playing with these toys? And when are you going to stop doing that? Like he kind of wanted me to grow up. And it's the 80s. It's very businessy time, you know, like it's that sort of thing. And it's also like be a man, that sort of thing. And I'm an emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I've always been this guy. And that used to be literally like, it was even said to me, it's like, well, your biggest weakness is you're emotional. And I'm like, no, that's, as I've grown up, I'm like, turns out it's my biggest strength.
Yeah, superpower.
Yes. And that's the thing. So I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I said in second grade, I want to be either a cartoonist or a stand-up comedian. But then I have kind of that breakdown. I get very introverted and focus on drawing a lot because then I'm isolated. I also went to private school, so I'm not friends with the kids in my neighborhood. They would make fun of me as they see me, and I wear a uniform. I love my sister, right? My older sister, and she would draw, so then I'm copying her. And then turns out I'm good at it. And then I remember in sixth grade, I get called out by a teacher in class because it's just a topic conversation. And someone asks, like, who do you think has the best handwriting in class? And she's like, do you really want to know? Is Miss Tannhauser? And she says, it's Frank Powers. And I just remember every head look at me. And I'm like, huh? Because I could draw. So my penmanship is excellent, obviously. And I love comics and cartoons. You have to care about lettering.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't write letters, you draw letters. I remember that and what that felt like. And we talk a lot about identity politics today. It's not just about gender or sexuality. It's about who are you at school? Are you the athlete? Are you the cheerleader? Are you the science kid? Are you the smart kid? Or just an average kid that's, you know, maybe they don't stand out, but maybe you don't also get beat up. You're just kind of there. You're doing what you're doing. But maybe you're one of these kids. And then that's when I realized I'm the art kid and started to lean into it. And now I had a role and a title, and it wasn't you're the nerd. Which, by the way, don't forget, we can talk about how fun being a nerd is nowadays, but it's also not. The kids in school that are nerds are the ones that have asthma, that can't keep up, that can't play sports, that can't do certain things. They're getting made fun of. It's not that they're there and like, I'm proudly a nerd. It's being ostracized.
Yeah.
That's still a part of growing up. It's always going to be a part of living, is being ostracized.
Yeah.
So learning to adapt that and then not wanting to be the kid in every TV show that I'm seeing who's just, you'll never get a girl, you're never going to be popular, you're always this nerd. I said, I'm going to own it. And again, I'm from New York, so I got an attitude about it. I made a choice that summer. I get a haircut, I get contact lenses, I get a new blue jacket that gives me like confidence. And Jim Carrey had come out. So I start to kind of be like, this is my hero. And a lot of people throw hero around. I don't. if someone's your hero, you should want to emulate that person in a way. Don't be a criminal and say like, oh, Superman's my favorite comic book. So, you can't be a criminal and love Superman in a way, right? So that's kind of the thing, is that I then became kind of the Jim Carrey kid. I'm doing impersonations of him, doing whatever. And I also made a bet with my parents. So in 7th grade, I had so much anxiety, I missed 78 days of school.
Oy.
2 more days and I had to legally be held back. I didn't know that. I made a bet with them that in 8th grade, I will get perfect attendance. I made a $500 bet.
Wow.
Okay? And they took that bet. And then because I had made these decisions, I'm going to be in your face about this stuff and I'm going to own it. I used to throw up the Star Trek Live Long and Prosper, but I do it reverse like it's a gang sign. And I'd be like, yeah, that's right. I like Star Trek. You got a problem with that?
And what?
Right. And I was 6'2". I realized like I am bigger than these kids. Some kids steals an ice cream sandwich from me one day, right? And they're playing monkey in the middle. And I'm like, you know what? And I just lunged and grabbed him like, I'm bigger than all of you, I said to all of them. And they were like, uh-oh. And I grabbed him and I start feeding him an ice cream sandwich, right? And I go right to these. I'm like, look, me and Pete are becoming friends. They go, Frank, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we're just becoming friends. All right. Because I was the nerd that they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're all going to stop now. And I stood up for myself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do these days, teaching kids about that. Because kids today can be anything they want to be. And they told us that when we were growing up, which is baloney too. Not everyone's going to be an astronaut. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got to do the work, right? Kids today can be that, especially in the creative world, because of things like Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. If you just want a silly dance, you can somehow make a living at it. Yep. If you want to be the best exterminator on YouTube, you can have a YouTube channel and someone is fascinated by what you're doing. All of this exists now. It's just up to kids. When I went to college, it was still a world where I walked around with a 18 by 24 portfolio trying to get an interview with Mad Magazine by knocking on the door, right?
Oh, man.
Now you can email, contact, they'll contact you, you put yourself, you build your brand. It's up to them.
Yeah.
And they have this power. So I really like to get kids past the hurdles I had growing up.
Yeah.
By telling them, just make a choice, defend yourself, be unapologetically who you want to be, and just go.
And
just
you
keep
are,
going.
Frank. I mean, I wish everyone could see you. I mean, you got the gold shoes.
I'm known for my gold shoes.
You
now.
always got the fun hats going on, but
Yep.
you always dress it up with a blazer, you know?
I got to look professional with the director of public affairs. Places, everyone. Places. Right?
And that's so funny you actually mentioned Jim Carrey, because when I first met you, he was the first person that came to mind. I was like,
there you go.
this guy reminds me of Jim Carrey. And I love Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
like, always have. And so that's so funny that he's your hero.
Yeah.
I love that.
Funny enough, in Jim Carrey's life, like there's weird parallels, and he's a lot about what he's manifested or what he's done for his goals, sacrificing too. Again, he lived in his car, but believed that in himself, wrote himself that check. You know, do you know that story where he wrote himself a check?
No.
He wrote himself a check that he's going to get paid $1 million for a movie by this time and whatever, and carried it with him. And then he got Ace Ventura, and he put that he put that check that he wrote to himself in his father's casket when he buried it. When talk about doing it, they were homeless at a point. They were living in a car, and Jim Carrey, and they were homeless because his dad lost his job. And Jim Carrey says this in a famous graduation speech, where you can lose it all not pursuing what you want to do. So you might as well pursue it.
Yeah.
Because his dad was just a worker and did whatever, and then all of a sudden lost it all.
Yeah.
So it's a good lesson to go for it and not be afraid. But I'm going to tell you this much. It takes work. Anything. To be what you want to be, and I don't care what it is that you want to be, it takes the most work. And that's what I tell all these kids too. 10,000 hours is how you become an expert, right? LeBron James still goes to practice every day. He doesn't not go to practice.
Yep.
Every concert, every musician you see, they're back there practicing before the show. The Rolling Stones practice before they go out to stay warm so it's good. People forget that.
Yeah.
You know, and they make it their mission to get through their Netflix queue. That's not what you should focus on. You should, and if you're going to be a creator, be a creator. Get off the bench and get in the game. Don't just critique the game from the bench.
Yep.
If you've got a problem with this, write your own movie, right? If you've got a problem with that, don't be a critic. Be a creator.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
love
some of my
that.
advice for some
That needs to be on a shirt. Don't be a critic.
TM.
Yeah.
TM. It's all mine.
TM.
You heard it here first.
Frank, I wanted to kind of springboard from that and ask you a little bit about your show and what it says to you about Tucson in this current moment. And what I think is interesting about your show is you bring the energy and the joy that you have for Tucson to very difficult topics. I think the nature of nonprofits are that they are on the front lines of some of our biggest and most important and hardest issues. And I know some of your conversations on the air have gotten really real and really deep. How do you manage that tension of Tucson is this beautiful place and there's some massive challenges? What does that give you to say to like the Tucson Metro Chamber about this Tucson moment? How do we help create the vision of how do we create the community that we could have?
I think the answer tops right to me is I'm real. And by that, I mean, I'm not afraid to cry. I talk to these people about some heartbreaking stuff. And I'm not trying to cry on the air, but I'll say like, all right, I'm going to ask something. I'm going to get choked up saying it. I'm not afraid to get choked up. I've done research. I think it might have been for Promesa. And I was telling you about them a little bit ago, where they're talking about orphans and they're talking about hard topics and kids that are dying in Ecuador and Nogales. And I'm telling you, like, you need to care about kids that aren't in your community. You need to care about kids that aren't just American. You need to just care because they're kids. It was a different organization. And it was about like terminal kids and, you know, similar to like Make-A-Wish style stuff. And I'm realizing that all the rooms for this building are named after children that aren't with us anymore. And I scroll down and one of them's wearing a WrestleMania shirt. And I just burst into tears because I think of John Cena and how he helps everybody. And he's the most giving of Make-A-Wish history. He's almost at like 700 wishes. And that's who I want to be. I want to be that guy who does the most to help.
Yeah.
Like it's something I strive for. And especially with kids. And that's what I think that this all is. When I was telling you, I'm a cartoonist. Back when in my 20s, it was a lot of, it's fart jokes and offensive humor. You know, it's Family Guy before Family Guy shows up. And that's why when Family Guy does show up, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because I get sick of it. I get sick of the insipid sarcasm and negativity and just that some of this stuff has, like Family Guy and even Rick and Morty.
You get tired of yourself.
Just the nihilist attitude of some of this stuff. Like, you know what? It's cool to care. Sorry, everyone. I'm not sure if you're aware. Caring actually is like the best thing you could do. Being ambivalent or being like, is a Gen X problem of just being like, that reeks of effort. That is this quote from The Simpsons. That's a quote with the Cool Lisa episode where Lisa's cool. Bart tries to steal her friends and he does some skateboard tricks. And they're like, that totally reeks of effort. And that is that generation's problem. That's also why we have so many older folks still at the heads of politics at the biggest seats, because the whole generation didn't step up because entertainment started to become the number one priority of all of us. That's not important. What's important, even in the political scope of things, everyone cares about that presidential race. Oh, did I say everyone? No, it's not everyone. Turns out it's only like 60% of people even turn out. And then if we're talking about local elections, it's like 6. So it's sad. And you need to care about your neighborhood and your street more than you care about like the problems of the entire nation that just get you all irate and you're just yelling at clouds.
Yeah.
Get involved locally. Get involved with the Tucson Metro Chamber. Get involved with the city council. Pay attention to the votes that are happening and just know what's going on in town. Because again, Tucson is the right size where we can actually make a change. I always talk about this moving here from New York. I used to work at Grill, the best restaurant downtown, where we can tell you, shut up and get out, because we make the rules because it's 24 hours. But we'd also, of course, take care of the nicest folks there, not just yell at you. There was this knitting club that would come down there, and they would all knit, these 17 gals. Yeah, wasn't that fun? Guess
love
what?
that.
I'm sure that there's 1,000 people that like to knit on Long Island, but there's 1 million people in the way. So they can't connect or communicate, and that's the problem. Out here, there's not as many people doing it, but because of that, they can all get together.
Yeah.
Because there's not as many people in the way, and that works for everything, all of these things.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of what it is. So that's what, again, Lifestyle Tucson, again, I know my answer has been so long. Lifestyle Tucson, it gives me an outlet for that. It lets me shine a spotlight on people in town, especially that they are 501c3s. They are the organizations doing the best. They come in all sizes. I've interviewed 501c3s that are a year old and ones that are 50 years old and ones that we raise $1 million something like Angel Charity, and then we give it to the smaller ones like Youth on Their Own, right? To help kids. That's, again, I interviewed Youth on Their Own. That organization, just based on their title, should make you want to help them.
Yeah.
Youth on Their Own. Come on.
Do it for the kids.
Do it for the kids because they are the future and a good community. If you want to live in a good community, you want an educated community. You want one that has every opportunity that they can get. You don't want poverty to be a thing in the way because that's what gets all the crime happening. If you educate everybody, if we can fix a lot of that, help these kids believe in themselves, help them chase careers and small business opportunities, their own careers and their dreams, you're going to have less graffiti. You're going to have less shoplifting and theft. You're going to have more things that are all going and growing because that is what a community truly is. And I know Tucson can do it.
Oh, absolutely.
I do know Tucson can do it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it in the sectors I've gotten to dip my toe in with small business, with some of what you guys do. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's just about bridging the gap between a few people. Because sometimes that's the other problem. Sometimes something can be too small where the owner of this hotel doesn't like the manager at this radio station, so they don't want to do business. And that's when your best Frank forever shows up. And I'm like, yeah, well, you both like me. So I'll talk to you and I'll talk to him. You both talk to me. And then we're going to get this all done. And we do.
Perfect.
Yes. So I'm even able to get rid of some of the old gripes that some of these people have left over from when they went to high school together. Yes, that's real, right?
Oh my gosh.
And get us to move forward together.
Yeah.
And that's been a great thing about hosting Lifestyle Tucson.
Yeah. I love that. And you're totally right. I mean, I know it's very easy to say, anything like do it for the kids, but it's true. Like if you start from the beginning, that's where everything starts. That's where the positive change starts. That's where, some of the unhealthy behaviors start. And that's why the chamber, fights so hard to promote initiatives or policy that really support education, to grow that future workforce, because we understand that they are the future. And if we're not investing then, one day we're going to wake up 20 years down the line and we don't have anyone. And then at that point, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Frank. So, like I said, you wear a lot of different hats, and I know there's other stuff that you do. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners about some of the cool work that you've been doing?
Yeah, because the thing I do as Director of Public Affairs, that's all the radio stuff. It's Lifestyle Tucson. It's great. But I'm talking about educating kids. And the way that I do that is with this thing called the Comic Book Mobile. It's my 1969 VW bus, and I drive it all around to events around town, schools, libraries especially, teaching kids how to draw cartoons using simple shapes, tell their stories, telling them by using comic strips, because a lot easier to do a comic strip than a comic book, and teaching them how to believe in themselves, stand up to bullying, and really just achieve a lot of the goals that I set out earlier when I was talking, just being unapologetically themselves and going for it. Because I just believe that some kids really need permission. They just need that permission, because you meet all these celebrities or see them on talk shows and things like that, and they just say, this one day I met my hero so-and-so, and he just told me don't give up. And for some reason, from that point forward, I was just able to do it. And it kind of unlocks this permission to be successful. That's what I'm trying to do for these kids. If they can believe in me, and then I believe in them, they believe in themselves.
I really love that, Frank, because you're right. A lot of these kids, unfortunately, don't always have that at home. They don't have that person. So what you're doing is great. And that VW Bugmobile, it's a gem. If anyone gets to see a photo of it or see it in person, it looks rad.
Heck yeah.
Well, Frank, this has been fun to switch it up, to almost interview the interviewer, I think, and we could go on for hours. But on that note, we'd like to thank you for being with us and to thank our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of The Business Of. We hope you found the information and insights we shared to be valuable. And Melissa, I know we couldn't do this without some of our great supporters. So.
Of course. So I would like to acknowledge a few of our keystone investors, including Diamond Ventures, Arizona State University, and Verizon, and Caterpillar. Their continued support is essential in helping us fulfill our mission of promoting a thriving business environment in Tucson.
Lastly, before we go, remember to check out the Tucson Metro Chamber's website at tucsonchamber.org. You'll find information about upcoming events, resources for business, and opportunities to get involved.
You can also stay connected with us by subscribing to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Business Of, featuring more news, insights, and inspiring stories from the Tucson business community, like you did today with Frank. And thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful Chamber of Commerce day.
What happened, Zach? You're supposed to do that together. Go ahead. Oh, what happened?
It was my turn.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, whatever. I'm the producer of this thing. I get the last word. Toot, toot, Tucson. I love you the most.